helps if you take the overlay off.
That's all.
That's it. That's as
all
good
we've
as
got.
it gets.
That's all. It's the murder she wrote.
Welcome to the Paranormal Hot Seat tonight with paranormal investigators Renata Daniel, Anne Rekovich, and Steve Chandler.
Steve.
We're here tonight to discuss some major important stuff. Going to get over to the comments. Steve, when I'm doing mine, you
I'm
can.
here to discuss me fractured neck.
Welcome. Wow, you guys have been busy while we've been setting up in the background. Well, funny that you're on tonight, my love, because I'm going to be quoting some of your work. So tonight we are covering a few different topics. Renata is going to be looking at the update on Annabelle. She is on the move. Be prepared.
She could be coming to a place near you.
Lucky Annabelle. And I am going to be talking about mutated ghosts. How's that for a topic? And this is talking about spirits that may evolve once they go to the other side. And Steve.
So we've had a bit of an update as of recently, as of the last,
12 hours.
12 hours or so. Well, it's not really much of an update, but on the local front, especially if you are followers of Anne and Renata and of Newcastle Ghost Tours, there has been an official, we'll put it in quotation marks, update on the future of Maitland Jail. Now, the article is behind a paywall on Maitland Mercury, so if you are a subscriber, you can actually read the details. The gist of the article is that the council, Maitland City Council, has now let go the remaining staff that were still employed by the jail as an offshoot. Now, they have had the general manager, I think they called him, of Maitland City Council on the radio on ABC this morning, and basically didn't tell us much more than we already knew, and we have been very transparent with what we've known,
which is nothing.
But the information hasn't changed. They're
still stalling.
There are no updates.
Yeah.
There were some figures and some timelines announced that the proposal for the development that they have accepted to go with is expected to be around the $30 million mark, cost-wise, and a rough estimate of 18 months. So that puts it, 2027-ish, if we're lucky.
And that, I would assume, would be before the whole proposal actually is ticked off.
Well, they're saying construction, etc., etc. So I don't think that that's correct either.
Yeah.
Hey, Big Ben.
Big Ben.
Look, this is nothing that we haven't known, and I think every time that someone has asked us individually, as a group, as an entity, we've been quite thorough. I was going to say forward and thorough at the same time. Forward and thorough with the information that we have, and the information hasn't changed.
Hi, Bernadette.
So the interesting thing, if you do, or you can go to ABC Radio and listen to the report for this morning. They had a former tour guide on there that gave a little bit more
history
of a
tour guide.
Yeah, history tour guide. Nothing to do with Newcastle Ghost Tours. And she gave a little bit more of insight about what was going on behind the scenes, which again was nothing that anybody didn't know. I feel like.
Well, the thing that she did mention was that because their whole idea is that, first of all, they closed the place because it was deemed as being not safe.
OH&S.
So OH&S, fire and electrical, right? But then somewhere along the line it changed, and well, let's not worry about fixing the fire and electrical stuff. Let's just change the lot. That's what Maggie Tabra would do. She would say, if you don't like the couch, buy a new house.
I think it was interesting that lady, I think her name was Marilyn, said that the intention of the people that were working at the jail before all of this happened was to use it in a way that it could be used,
Yeah.
and you know, make sure that there was some kind of income coming through,
Yeah.
so that even while there was work going on during the day, that there would be some kind of visitation and, I guess, funding coming
Yeah.
through from
Yeah.
the general public. I mean, I know that what we did at the jail did not really require the lights. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
We didn't need the
We
electricity.
didn't need the electricity much. We
Just
only needed
flushing
it,
toilets.
we only needed it in the places where it was okay anyway, where the bathrooms were. But I think that it was interesting that they just cut off the entire limb,
Mhm.
as opposed to, you know,
And there's still people, maintenance people going in there, because we had somebody on one of the lives who said they were in there mowing the lawns and keeping things neat and
that is
tidy.
the good news. I think
Yeah.
that we have figured out, not through any communication with the council or anything, that through Alive, that there are still maintenance works going on, which is reassuring to think that the place isn't sitting there falling into further
Hi,
disrepair.
Jeremiah.
We don't know what's going on with the updating of the fire and electrical, because while we were there, they were putting new smoke detectors and stuff. Like, we were noticing, oh, that's a new smoke detector, that's
Mm.
this, that's this. So and it always has been bureaucratic red tape that has tied it up. Local council don't want to fund it. State council are now going, well, why didn't you tell us earlier? And I've always said, until there was a federal election, there was not going to be anything on the move. We've had a federal election now, so
And all of a sudden things are being announced.
things are starting to go. But
Well, are they being announced, or are they just being reiterated
I think
to say
I think
that?
there's renewed pressure now that, you know, there is going to be a stabilization for the next
4 years.
yeah
Mm.
of
The same
know,
government, so theoretically.
of hopefully, it's like, when you think of Maitland, it is one of the prime tourist locations for Maitland.
It's a very good interview though on the ABC.
Yeah, it's very good. So if you want to listen to it,
the tour guide speaks really well. And the thing is, if we know there was a bit of politics going on in the background, and we know that there were some people that didn't like the success or the content of the ghost tours, and they got their noses out of joint. But the thing is, it's backfired on them, because they've caused so much trouble and grief that the council's gone, well, let's just shut it down. So they've lost their jobs too.
I think in the grand scheme of things, yes,
Karma,
from
but
what we
took
saw,
us out too.
from what we saw, and from what we know, because we had full tours booked for weeks, if not months in advance,
Yeah.
there's demand.
Yeah.
I mean, you even shot travel guides, and they're re-airing travel guides saying that Maitland Jail is open for ghost tours.
Yeah, no.
And
Sorry.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
I feel like, again, it's something that public pressure is going to have to, you know, we're not going to be able to do it out like ourselves. It's going to be the general public
Yeah,
that are like, what's going on with the economy of Maitland?
and we can, carry on and everything, but if we carry on too much, they won't re-engage Newcastle ghost tours.
But it's not even. I don't think. If we
But
stay out of it, it's not really.
no, but the thing is, because they're using the problem is health and safety, looking after the public. We don't want people in there because we've seen some problems that are there. Then they're not going to get insurance. Nobody's going to insure them if there's problems with the facility. So we can say, oh, we want to come in, we can work and do whatever we like. But if there's no insurance, we've got our own insurance for public liability, but that doesn't cover the actual building itself.
It would just be interesting to know the specifics of what areas
Yeah.
that specifically entails, and whether any kind of tour.
And
as she mentioned, in the interview, they had just spent a fair chunk of a government grant updating this tower, so that
blew out. That blew out.
Nothing to do with us, and that's millions of dollars that they have put into the site that is now not being recouped in any way. obviously they've spent the money on that. That would be safe. You could use that part of the jail.
Yeah.
We use the whole span of the jail, but there would be parts that we could use and parts
we
that
would
we couldn't
use.
use, and we would graciously use, and we would do well like we always did, and give people an amazing experience. It just seems like it's in the too hard basket
Yeah.
until everything's sorted.
It's
So-
in the not enough money basket, and who's going to give us more money. I just want to give a quick shout out to Joanne and Big Ben. Thank you so much for your super stickers.
Go, Ben.
It's people like you that keep us doing what we are doing. So thank you. You don't have to send super stickers. You can support us by sharing this show to other people, by writing something in the comments. You can. You can buy us a coffee, whatever. Jeremiah, thank you for the coffees. And thank you to everyone else who's bought us some coffees over the week as well. But we really appreciate you guys doing what you can do to help us.
That's not a bad idea, Dave. Where are you? Creator Friends of Maitland Jail group. I think that it's going to come down to the public, and I think if the public is concerned in the right kind of way, that's a good barometer for the people of council to go, hey, we have this site that. And I think what's important for the people to stress out, yes, we love going there, but everyone that worked at that jail loves that jail. No matter who it is, everyone loved that jail.
Whether they liked us or not, they loved it.
Yeah, everyone. And even the people that have left beforehand, they all loved the place more than anything else. And the fact that we were all there trying to make it shine its best, I think, is what is the most important thing to stress out, not to be belligerent about it, but just to go, this is such a rarity and such a jewel in the crown of Maitland, Newcastle, New South Wales, that it's a shame that it's just sitting there doing nothing.
I like it, the jailbirds. That's actually just a little thought I had there. Somebody mentioned T-shirts. We should get a Save Maitland Jail T-shirt, and the proceeds go to Newcastle Ghost Tours because they've lost their income. Serious.
Oh, I think a Save Maitland Jail T-shirt would be great.
Yeah.
Not necessarily proceeds, but just the advertising of the fact that we're still thinking about Maitland Jail, and we'll walk up the streets of Maitland and see what we get. Or we turn out in front of council.
And Robert and Daisy, thank you for the super stippers. The stippers. Really
what do they
appreciate
call
it.
They call a petition is always
petition.
Online petition.
I think because people have been waiting for updates and there have been so many assurities that things are going to go ahead, people are holding back from doing anything because they're assuming that it is just automatically going to go ahead. The thing is that when they had the ABC Talkback Radio thing today, there was only one way forward. That's let's get the money from government and let's do this revitalisation. There was no plan B mentioned. So what happens if the money doesn't come through? No one knows. There is no plan B.
What is the plan B is the big question.
Can we fix what's wrong and open the place back up? It would mean looking at how it's run, looking at changing, the dynamics there where it's not costing as much as it has up till this point in time. I know there are a lot of costs involved in keeping a place like that open, but we've been to countries around the world where places like that are kept open and there are things functioning in bigger, mightier places than that.
Yeah, go look at the video that was put up recently of help me. Shawshank.
Yes.
Ohio
State Reformatory.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what it takes to keep that place alive and well.
Maitland Jail is like the Hilton compared to that place.
Maitland Jail is a beautiful 5-star accommodation compared to some of those holes in the wall that were literal there.
Yeah.
But it also showcases that is still a working jail in the back part of it.
Yeah.
Like it shows what can be done. And I think we've had this conversation a lot about the short-sightedness of Australian councils,
Yeah,
etc., etc.,
And
Yeah.
venues.
and venues in general, not seeing the bigger picture of what could be done if you find the right people
Yeah.
Yeah.
to do it.
If you look at the UK and the USA, for those reasons, you will realise that they've got it worked out.
and
Yeah.
yeah, just if as I said, any kind of protest, I think, has to be done with a modicum of respect for the place.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in going in there and
Chaining
enti-
ourselves to the gates.
But just the entitlement that we see in other places where they go, well, this I should be allowed in. I should be like, this is a community. The idea and the people that are engaged here care about the place more than anything. It's not a sense of self entitlement that I should be able to go there because it's there and I want to. It's more about keeping that piece of history
Yeah.
A, alive, and B, available to the people that would like to access
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's a shame that councils aren't fixated on the heritage rather than the next bit of land that needs to be sold and some development going up.
Especially
Just
with
saying.
all these roadworks going on, there's all these bypasses and
Yes,
whatnot.
it's bringing people
It
into
will
the
bring
hunter,
people
and
to
then
the
they've
hunter
got nothing else to
through the
see.
hunter.
Joanne suggested this. There's only one solution: move to the UK for 6 months of the year.
Actually, I would really like to go in October if anyone would like to host me.
What's happening in October?
It's a
Oh,
concert I
wait.
want to go
Oh, which
to.
concert is it?
This, sorry. So, one of my former students choreographs for Jade Thirlwell, an artist.
Moving.
She was part of the band girl group Little Mix,
All right.
and she's releasing her solo album, and there's a tour going on. I think he is choreographing the tour, so I'm having a little proud puffer moment. I'm like, can I afford to go to the?
Yeah. There maybe someone on here lives in England and put Steve up for a couple of nights.
Finance, my true.
You can do a GoFundMe, Steve, like everybody else.
Go fund Steve. He just wants to travel, Joel.
All right.
So, friends of Maitland Jail, Dave.
I think that's a good idea.
You seem to be the man, and
Dave, you've got a job.
I think we would gladly promote that on anything that that you guys did.
Got to take the high road all the way in, though.
Yeah.
Always take the high road.
High road. It's about preserving the past and putting the future,
and bringing the new people into the jail. As we say, they come for the ghosts, but they leave with the history.
Yes. Give us something to do on a Saturday night.
Oh no, right. I'm home this Saturday night.
Oh god.
Oh, hello, Eagles fly.
Help us all.
How you doing?
All right, well, it's my turn. I'm just going to take over now. I'm going to talk about something that we all love. It's one of the fabulous stories that involve the Warrens. And of course, when you talk about the Warrens, there's always shit to stir. But we are going to be focusing on Annabelle, because Annabelle is taking a road trip. She's going around America.
Oh, lucky Annabelle, for going on holidays.
Now, I don't know whether they've actually got her in a cabinet, whether they take her in a bag, whether they hold onto her with both arms when they strap themselves into the aeroplane.
Oh dear.
Question number one,
Annabelle's claimed an arm. Look, there's an arm sitting on her lap. Seriously.
would
Yeah,
you
Stephen,
if you knew Annabelle was going to be on that plane?
I don't think she flies. From what I have seen, and I did a little bit of research.
She came to New Zealand, so
No, but traveling the States, I don't think she flies because she's at Western State Penitentiary at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Is she though?
Well, who can tell who the real Annabelle is?
Oh, she's a Costas and Annabelle.
Now, I don't know how much it costs, but I do have a question for you. Do you know who's involved in this?
Johnny Zaffis?
No. Ready for a blast from the past? Ryan Buell.
Oh wow.
Now,
Okay, that's interesting.
For those of us that don't remember
Rehab
Ryan was the host /
I love that show.
I guess, lead investigator
Yeah,
of
he was.
Paranormal State.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's where I first really started getting into the paranormal, was watching that show.
And it seems interesting that he is the heir apparent to Annabelle. He seems to be one of the dudes going around it. So I did a little bit of a dive about where Ryan's been and what Ryan's been up to.
Yes.
This might colour the conversation a little bit.
Do you want you right there, or do you want?
Right.
Let me, first of all, before you go on there, I'm just going to tell you where I saw a post today and read you a little bit from it, which kind of raises this whole conversation about Annabelle. And this is from the Kling brothers. Now, in Australia, you will remember the Kling brothers coming out a year or so ago as their last sort of final trip around. But the Kling brothers have been around for a very long time as well. And they did, what was it, Paranormal Lab, or what was
Ghost
it?
Lab.
Ghost Lab. So they would travel around the country in a big truck that was fitted out with all ghost technology and everything. And they
was
had
amazing.
a number of different shows. So they wrote yesterday, I noticed that Annabelle doll is being displayed all over the place and is coming to San Antonio. Hear me out on this one. This may be an unpopular thought. So the gist of the origin is that a woman back in the 70s had it, and when she would come home, it looked like it had moved. She said this happened a lot. She thought her landlord might be playing tricks, so she rigged her place with items that would be disturbed if he came in. Next time she came into her place, nothing was disturbed, but the doll had moved. She called a psychic. The psychic said there was a girl named Annabelle who had died in a car accident outside her place and now was living inside the doll. A male friend was over one night and had a dream the doll choked him. He was later to have found scratches on his body. They called the Warrens. They came in and say it's more than it appears and may be demonic, and they removed it and put it in a glass case where it sits today. He goes on to say there is no video evidence of movement. There is not any evidence of anything besides what a psychic said and what the Warrens said. I'm not at all refuting the opinions of the Warrens or the psychic. However, why has the doll not been scrutinized by scientific tests or experimented with to see if it can indeed move on its own or talk or anything? I'm not saying that this is out of the realm of possibilities, but if people believe so much in what someone simply tells them, then we have a problem. If this doll is everything people say it is, then you should be able to document some sort of unexplained activity. You would think the paranormal community would jump at the chance. But it is being paraded around as a circus sideshow, people paying money to come see Raggedy Ann in a wooden box with a glass door. There is opportunity here. I, for one, would love to experiment with it. Is there documented evidence of anything other than stories that someone can point me to? What are your thoughts? Now, I found this very, very interesting. We had done a podcast. Stop it! We had done a podcast on Annabelle. And talked about the origin of the story and some of the things that have allegedly happened over the years. I have to say, we saw Annabelle at the Conjuring House, one of the Annabelles. Annabelle?
Not the real one.
Yeah.
They
was it this version of Annabelle, or was it
bigger.
the movie version?
No, it was that
version. That's what the real Annabelle looks like.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
So what are your thoughts about this thing? Should Annabelle be paraded around? Obviously, someone's needing some money that they pull her out and take her around the country. Do they talk about her story? Do they talk about what goes on when Annabelle is around? Would you be scared to go and see Annabelle in a space like that? Why hasn't there been sort of an investigation or a deep dive into the real Annabelle?
Like we did on the True Hauntings podcast.
I guess they kind of say that, taking her out of her glass cabinet may invoke the demons. But, I kind of just find this really, really hard to stomach. They've
Annabelle and her attachments.
Yeah, they've pulled her out over so many years, and now they're making a buck out of her. What else are they going to
piggyback off that now?
Bring out from the Warrens Museum? Yes, go ahead, Ryan Buell.
So Ryan Buell disappeared.
Yeah.
Paranormal state, over, done with. So here's a little track record of what Mr. Buell has been up to. In July 2012, Buell claimed he had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. In late 2013, Buell told People magazine he was near remission. However, his mother, Shelley, later denied his cancer diagnosis at all. In July of 2014, Buell began selling tickets for a Conversations with the Dead tour. These shows, however, were indefinitely postponed, and many customers did not receive refunds or further correspondence to the status of the show. Here's where it gets even better.
Come in. You're slipping off camera there.
Buell's close friend and collaborator on Paranormal State, Chip Coffey, claimed that the ticket sales had exceeded $80,000, and that while he had been in charge of helping plan the shows, he learned that Buell had not actually booked any of them. Buell was arrested in September 18, 2016 in Florence County, South Carolina, on a warrant from State College, Pennsylvania. He was extradited back to Pennsylvania and charged with 2 third-degree felonies for theft of leased property and receiving stolen property, and 1 misdemeanor of theft of services. He was released on bail from Center County Corrections Facility on October 18th after spending 30 days in jail. Buell was subsequently arrested on April 21st, 2017, on charges of simple assault and harassment on his boyfriend. In July 2017, after his release from jail and rehabilitation, Buell published a personal blog where he apologized to his fans, admitted he was a recovering drug addict, and had recently been discharged for rehabilitation. So that's who's in charge of your money.
He fell off the wagon a couple of times, if I remember too. And look, good on him if he has got himself sorted and is now doing the right thing. Good to him.
Questionable person to put as the frontage for a tour, though. I think.
Yes. Not exactly the best track record to be running an event.
And look, everyone makes mistakes in their past, but I think when you are,
he was blaming it on demons.
yeah, and look, demons can be personal and they can be,
I'm going to be talking about that.
But I find that very questionable for the people that are in charge of the Warren estate, that they would attach themselves to a tarnished brand.
Apparently, there was a comment here not long ago where someone said that they actually called it a scam, what he was doing. Someone wrote something up about that.
Oh, the Warren Foundation.
The Warren Foundation called it a scam.
Or a sham.
A sham, being a sham.
So they're not. So the Warren Foundation now do not possess Annabelle. Is that what we're led to believe?
Doesn't Tony Spira have? I think it's in. I don't know. I thought she was still in the museum.
That's confusing, because does that mean they do not hold the rights to anything Annabelle related? Because there would be.
And you would have to sign off for Annabelle leaving that museum for it to be taken, if she has.
But I've also heard there's multiple Annabelles.
Yes.
Because
then that's shit, isn't it? That's just absolute
taking
shit.
advantage of people.
Yeah.
Because I remember that from when we did the podcast on it, is that there was somebody had stated, this is not our opinion, this is something that we read in research, that it was multiple Annabelles, and they would trot out one. They wouldn't take it all around the country. They'd take a different Annabelle. So
it's like Santa Claus and his helpers.
Was that?
That video was released 6 days ago by Simply Strange. There you go. So it is an unfolding of. I find it interesting that, as I said, I've seen Ryan Buell's face a few times. Like, who is that? I know that head, and then I was like, oh, that's Ryan from Paranormal State. Then people look. This information's easy to find. It's on his Wikipedia. All that information about everything that he has gone through, and
same with Ed Warren. The information that he was
there
betting a 16-year-old girl is out there, and nobody cares. I don't get how he became such a big thing in a franchise on TV, in the movies, when he's a known pedophile.
When you are calling yourself a God-loving person who is working on the side of God, and you're kiddie fiddling, I'm sorry, that's not right.
I tell you what, though, the trailer does look a bit good for the new movie. It's not at all based in any kind of reality, but it looks very good. There's lots of screaming and things floating and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All the things that you'd expect from
There are
for
a
a
lot
Conjuring
of
movie.
there are a lot of horror movies coming out
Oh.
this year. Lots and
Al
lots.
Pacino being an exorcist.
Yes, I saw that.
He'd be good.
That was a bit scary.
He'd
that-
be the old
ritual.
priest.
The ritual.
Yeah. So yes, beware if you're buying
Buyer
tickets.
beware.
I guess beware.
Yeah.
Ask some questions while you're there. You
And
know,
if anyone does
this
go,
is-
please let us know.
Yeah, please, absolutely. We would love to know.
No matter what the event, if there's a big event that is going on and you are considering investing quite a bit of money, do some research on who is running it.
That's a little bit of a shock, Steve.
I know. I thought the whole Annabelle on tour thing made me go, to
Yeah.
start with. And then I saw, the general bros in black jeans and black t-shirts, and there's
We have a picture of the real Annabelle.
a random head, and I was like, it's Ryan Bill.
Mm,
So it's questionable.
yes.
There she is.
There she is.
Don't look directly at her eyes.
Positively do not. Can't see the last word.
Touch the glass, I think it is.
Would you hug Annabelle if you had the chance? Would you go up to her and give her a hug and say, I'm so sorry for everything that has been said about you? Or is it too late? Which is going to bring me to my topic.
And look, the mythos built up around it is very compelling for people that don't do their research.
No.
But
They think everything that's on the internet is true.
I've got to say, I did this, and I'll talk about it again. The Zach Baggins thing. We talked about one of the dolls that was on display in Zach Baggins' museum that you're not supposed to look at and supposed to talk to. And there's this all this mythos around her. It was pretty cool to see. I don't know that. I got the heaves a little bit, but that could just be.
Is that the projected energy that everybody's put into painting that doll?
That's like the spirit box in the basement that's wired to upstairs. But I didn't say it. And apparently Zach's broken up with Holly Madison as well. They're single.
Oh, he had a partner.
He was dating Holly Madison.
He had about four.
Ex.
He had about 4 other women at the same time.
Yes, she should be used to that though. She used to be with Hugh Hefner. You can't contain Zach.
Interesting you should say that. We found something just like that when we went to a very, very haunted house in America in a very active toy box that seemed to put off EMF all the time.
Annabelle, shocked.
Mum.
I feel like I could work on
that's coming out in a video, but we'll get there eventually.
one day.
Because we had a stack of people who were just not going to let up on the fact of why there was so much activity around a toy box. And so they threw out every single toy in the box.
I love our people. They are so good.
Until they found something that was turned on. That was emitting EMF.
We turned it off and put it back in there.
Oh, there's also been an update in the Aaron Goodwin case as well.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
His missus is on trial, so they've released all the text messages, and she's going to jail, basically.
I think that's the good thing.
But great ratings plug for Ghost Adventures.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Wow.
This is the episode where Aaron would have died. I wasn't there because I have asthma. He doesn't go anywhere anymore,
doesn't he?
He just sits in a van or at home, and they're all
And sends Aaron
Skyping in. Yvette Fielding must be rolling in her leather pants. The amount of time she's peed her pants for this bloody industry, and old Zachy sits home.
No, it didn't, Buzz, but it'll all come out in the video. I finally got to the videos from 2023. They're starting to come out. Now that I've got a brand new laptop and I've got Windows, and I'm editing in Filmora, which I know there's better programs,
I've
but
got
this is a
doors.
step up. So yeah, the Grand Poobah's got a little sneaky one that I did in a place where I wasn't allowed to film, but because I wasn't allowed to film, it's not going anywhere but to our Patreon, so they can enjoy that.
All right, you're
Really?
busting to get on
I
with this
am.
one.
She's
My
perfect.
turn.
It seems
Now-
like Annabelle is.
I am going to have to. She put pets.
Yeah, she's got some bloomers issues.
Her elastic's gone. I had that. I remember going to school one day and the elastic went in my pants and they fell down. Never mind.
Sit over there, Dom.
No
I
wonder,
met my husband.
no
No.
wonder you've got trauma. That's all I can say.
So I am going to need to read from my notes from this. Now, I was
Editor.
listening to the latest Mysterious Universe, and they were talking about this theory of ghosts, which I had not heard of before, but it was only part of their episode. But it inspired me to go down a deep rabbit hole, which I have done. So my presentation today is about mutated ghosts when spirits evolve into demonic entities. Now, I'm expecting you guys to all have input and have your say in this as I go through it. So, could a ghost change its very nature over time? In paranormal lore and investigation, a controversial theory suggests that some goats, nah, this is what happens in the outtakes of True Hauntings.
I'm not there. I'm from
The ghosts or human spirits might mutate or evolve due to environmental, psychological, and energetic influences into entities that resemble demons, what we know as demons. Traditionally, ghosts are the lingering spirits of the deceased, while demons, now this is just going to have some sort of definition so we can move through. So ghosts are lingering spirits of the deceased, while demons are non-human, malevolent entities.
Bless you.
But cases from poltergeist infestations to sinister hauntings have prompted experts to wonder if that line can blur. In this post, we are going to dive deep into the concept of mutated ghosts, exploring how a once human spirit behavior might intensify and transform, perhaps even overlapping with what we interpret as demonic activity. Now, we hear about demonic activity all the time on the internet, and I've got to the stage that I'm sick of it and I roll my eyes. But this has made me think differently. There's a couple of real cases that we will look at, and one of the ones that I was going to do is actually the True Hauntings podcast that's coming up. Not the next one, but the one after that,
Cross promotion.
which is the South Shields poltergeist.
But you can't talk about it.
No, we're going to look at the Black Monk and
Black Monk.
we're going to be also looking at Malachi Martin, John Zaffis, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Yes, I am going to be quoting Ed and Lorraine Warren.
They're watching us.
And things like thought forms and tulpas and all that sort of thing. And also how that belief, trauma, and ritual attention might shape these entities, and whether some demons may have started life as human spirits. Because demons were supposed to be never born onto the
Not
earth.
of human origin.
Right, so let's just have a look at the definition.
Let's
We've
look
got a human ghost as the spirit of someone who once lived and died, whereas an inhuman spirit is a demon, right? So that's the thing we're going to go with. Yes, maybe. Which is why you're probably going to get quoted. So we are going to talk about the famous, or I like to say infamous demonologist, Ed and Lorraine Warren. They said there are two types of spirits that are encountered in true haunting situations. They quoted our podcast. Isn't that nice? One is human. The other, however, is inhuman. As an inhuman spirit is something that's never walked the earth in human form. Demon, in other words, are traditionally seen as separate order of being, often malicious and distinct from souls of the dead. However, telling a nasty human spirit from a demon can be challenging, especially in the early stages of a case, according to Lorraine Warren. Oh, she's such an expert. She said sometimes in the beginning of a case, you can't tell the difference between a negative human spirit and a demon. Both can be extremely malicious, and sometimes they even work together. The initial signs of a haunting, as bangs, whispers, physical attacks, might come from either kind of entity, really. According to Lorraine, the true inhuman spirit eventually reveals itself by the scale of its phenomena. Only the demonic, however, has the power to bring about such incredible negative phenomena as fires, explosions, dematerialization, teleportation, and levitation of large objects. In other words, a violent ghost and a small scale demon can look very similar. Would you agree with that if we believed in demons as being non-human?
Yep.
Okay. It's when the activity crosses into spectacular poltergeist extremes that a demon's hand may be at work. And of course, in case of full possession, the entity will ultimately declare its identity and often even naming itself, which a mere human ghost typically cannot or would not. Well, I disagree with that because
that's not
we've
right.
had them name
Is
themselves.
it?
We've had them name themselves on the spirit boxes. So while the orthodox view draws a hard line between ghosts and demons, seasoned investigators caution that early on that line can be blurry. John Zaffis, a veteran paranormal researcher, just happens to be the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren, although I actually agree with some of the things he said, admits he had to revise his assumptions. If someone is scratched, it doesn't always mean we're dealing with something demonic. Yes! Sorry. I used to think that if a person got pushed or scratched, that it was something evil, not necessarily. And this next part I agree with as well. And I've been preaching this for years and I didn't realize that he had said it. If a person was a mean, rotten person when they were alive, they will be like that in spirit form. So a malicious ghost can mimic demonic behavior, such as scratching, biting, oppressing the living, not because it's truly a demon, but because that spirit's human personality was cruel or angry. And it's a way of them being able to verify who they were. If you knew them and you knew them as a horrible turd, then you would say, "Oh, yeah, I recognise that. That's Uncle Joe." Um, being extremely negative alone does not prove that it is non-human. All right, could be a lingering rage of a poor old human. So even folklore has blurred the boundaries between the dead people and the demons. German tradition, for example, the vampiric nightmare spirit called an Alp can either be a demon or a malevolent ghost of a dead person. I have not heard of that one. ALP, not the Australian Liberal Party, that's the Alp. Depending on the tale, an Alp might literally be the restless soul of a wicked deceased or a non-human demonic creature. As legends underscore that the categories of ghosts and demons aren't always mutually exclusive in human imagination. Now, with this in mind, the idea of a mutated ghost might become a little bit more plausible. What if some hauntings started with a human spirit, but through gradual changes come to resemble demonic infestations? What could cause the spirit to undergo such a dark evolution? Paranormal researchers propose a mix of factors, from the environment of the haunting and the emotional states involved to human belief and even deliberate ritual. So we're going to have a look at some of those. So the theory of the mutated ghost, let's look at what that is. It's not scientific label, it's something that has been created by people who are researching this sort of stuff. But it's a nice way to describe what this suspected phenomena is. So, a ghost or a spirit that changes its nature over time, growing in strength or malevolence in a way that makes it seem like it has become a different entity altogether. This usually implies a progression from a relatively benign or ordinary haunting into something far more threatening and demonic in character. Right, you pop up any comments that you think are good in there. Not if your comment doesn't get popped up, don't think that doesn't mean your comment's not good.
I don't think it's good.
So what would cause such a transformation?
Oh, you asked me that question?
Oh, well, I can keep going.
Can cause such a transformation if you have and we hear this all the time, where there is an energy in a house and people start to label it as demonic because someone has said that has to be something demonic. And if you keep on labeling something as something that's going to stick eventually. And does
And it
our psyche, our
could
energy
mutate.
change that particular? It's like a story changing, and that story changes and grows legs and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And so you cannot get that initial story back ever. It is gone. And now it is something else. It has mutated into something else because we, the living, have changed it.
It's gossip. I saw it, like I struggle with the idea of a demon to begin with.
Mm.
Haven't seen it, don't know, whatever. But the more it's like some messing with someone's reputation. The more that you hear about it, this person or whatever entity gets built up to be something that is quite possibly nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So, one of the theories is energy and environment. So, there is a researcher and author called Colin Wilson. I've got many of his books over there. Investigated many poltergeist cases, observed that intense hauntings often feed on and amplify negative human energies. In analysing infamous Pontefract poltergeist, Wilson proposed that poltergeists find their energy in unhappy households. Isn't that a good way of putting it? Noting that family tensions seem to make the home more susceptible to violent phenomena. He also speculated certain locations, for example, places with a dark or religious history, can provide a particular spiritual force that fuels the haunting. But it's fueling the stories and the
But
rumours.
isn't that human energy? Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily something that is
Yep,
cognizant and
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So, a stressed family, a house beset with trauma, the sight of old violent energies might act as a good fertilized garden bed for these energies to grow stronger and nastier. So, modern parapsychology sort of agrees with this idea. Some researchers suggest that poltergeist outbreaks are not spirits at all, but manifestations of psychokinetic energy from a living person under emotional distress. Now, that's
trauma.
normally what we sort of work with. We have heard some other theories as well and are open to anything really. Many classic poltergeist cases center on an adolescent going through turmoil. Could be a troubled living mind project outwards and causing the real disturbances. One investigator noted that private hauntings often coincide with a household in chaos. And this is where quite often when we have private cases, this is where we're drawn to, aren't we?
Mm.
And there's been trauma there.
Look, I've got to say that not all. From everything that I've read over the years, there are some things where it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. But there are a lot where people think that a lot is happening and it might be demonic when it's really not.
They suggested that there has been some sort of breakdown in the family, a death, someone is depressed. They all have one thing in common. They are usually suffering from some kind of psychological trauma. So, is it possible that being in this negative headspace is projecting the energy outwards and causing these things to happen to an unintended, I can't talk, unintended act of psychokinesis? Quote from Living Life in the Full Spectrum.
Wouldn't that mean though that we would have cases like that virtually in every household?
But I think it would depend on the abilities of the people in the
Perfect
household.
storm, basically.
If nobody had the ability for psychokinetic phenomena, then it's not going to happen. It certainly expresses itself in other ways. Sometimes it'll express itself in violence or breakdowns or this is just for this theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
If true, this suggests a living agent can accidentally create a haunting or empower a minor ghost into a major one. A feedback loop might arise. The more phenomena starts to occur, the more frightened and unstable the people become, which in turn provides more fuel for the entity, be it an external spirit or a psychic prediction. And that's normally what we do when we have a case like this. We will say to them, stop giving it energy. Stop focusing on it. And we also say keep a diary. So beyond the unconscious energy, intentional actions can also escalate a spirit's behaviour. Paranormal investigators warn that amateurs trying to communicate with a ghost via Ouija boards, seances, and psychic mediums, oh, dirty people, may inadvertently advise something far more dangerous. A dramatic example comes from the case of Annabelle. Look at this. We're crossing over left, right, and centre in the living way. She's back on again. The famous haunted doll investigated by Ed and Lorraine Warren in 1970. And we've already talked about the little girl that was. Did we talk about the is inhabited by a little girl who was supposedly killed?
Yeah,
Yep. When the Warrens arrived, Ed concluded it was never a child's ghost at all, but an inhuman spirit deceiving them. That's where that theory came from. Don't you hate it when you lose your spot? So because they were originally trying to nurture it and be nice to it and give it nice energy. But then the Warrens come in and declare that it's inhuman spirit and start the fear. The girl's mistake, it explained, was giving it full permission. The doll simply brought your fear and even injury. Inhuman spirits enjoy inflicting pain. Your next mistake was calling in a medium. Should have got an extra large. The demonic has to somehow get your permission to interfere in your life. Sorry, my eyes just rolled back again. In the Warrens' view, the seance that the roommates had held, hoping to help the little ghost with the help of a medium, actually opened the door to a demon. Then they could make a movie about it.
So does that mean that the original ghost no longer exists, or that it has
Mutated.
So you've got a little 6-year-old girl ghost
Mm-hmm.
who has now mutated into some sort of demonic thing.
Yeah. They're giving it the characteristics, changing who it is. See what I mean? This is fascinating. So the human belief or ritual attention can transform a haunting. It's central to the mutated ghost theory. That's the concept, sorry. If a ghost is like a flame, then human focus is like oxygen. It can make the flame burn brighter and hotter. Repeated acknowledgement, fear, and especially invitation, please give us a sign, spirit, come closer, are thought to strengthen the entity, not for us. Doesn't work for us. Some researchers even say that an entity might consciously exploit this and work on it. And I have said this as well. Behaving, I didn't say about the innocently, behaving innocently at first to win trust and then becoming more hostile. Now, Malachi Martin, a Catholic exorcist and author, also spoke of demonic strategy in precisely these terms, deceiving people in order to ensnare them, get the hooks in. He was a bit of a wild fella, that one. He was utterly convinced that demons are everywhere and looking for opportunities. They are the influences of Satan. He described Malachi Martin convinced the demons lurk about the world in great numbers, ready to pounce on the unwary. In cases of hauntings, a demon might camouflage itself as a harmless ghost to gain entry. Conversely, one might speculate that a genuine human ghost, once it gains enough negative energy or is subjected to cult rituals, could lose its humanity and just behave like an inhuman presence. So you know how we go to these places and we say, well, how come we never hear from the kitchen maids and everything like that? If they were the ghost that was in situ and everyone's gone in going, oh, this is where the demon is, and start talking to it like it's a demon, that's giving them energy. They're going, oh, I'm no longer just the serving girl, I'm important now. And they start to take on those characteristics because they're getting the attention. Right. Theory is one thing, but real world cases illustrate how a haunting can intensify and shift in character over time. So there's two that we were going to look at, but I'm going to leave the South Shields case because we have to do that on true hauntings.
Say it.
I can't do it.
I'm not saying no.
All right. There was the climax.
Cool.
I'm going to do the Black Monk of Pontefract instead.
Monte Carlo. Oh, delicious.
Words are hard. Are you enjoying this information? Are you thinking about
Wrap
things?
it up. You've got 4 minutes.
No, I don't. I've got another 5 pages.
You've got to wrap it up.
And so going back a few decades, we find an even more famous case, Pontefract, England, often called the most violent poltergeist in Europe. The haunting on 30 East Drive occurred in the late 1960s and centered on the Pritchard family. At first, it looked like a classic poltergeist with knocking sounds, furniture moving, objects teleporting and moving, appearing from nowhere, such as coins or puddles. The entity was nicknamed Fred originally by the family, but later infamously dubbed the Black Monk after a ghostly black-clad figure was reported. So why this one stands out as dangerous, the Pritchard's teenage daughter Diane was repeatedly targeted. She was often thrown from her bed and once dragged up the stairs by an invisible hand that left lacerations on her neck. The force in the house demonstrated not only strength, but a kind of blasphemous intent. After a family friend sprinkled holy water in the home, the poltergeist responded by painting upside down crosses on the living room walls and doors, and destroying crucifixes. Now, immediately people are going to say, well, that's demonic because it's sacrilege against Christianity and the cross and baby Jesus. This classic demonic calling cards, but not typically ghost behavior. Both the family and visitors, including a local priest, have reported encounters with a dark, cowled apparition and described him as a black-robed monk-like figure, often seen gliding around. The parents even saw it form at the foot of their bed one night. The sinister monk image, combined with the anti-Christian vandalism and physical assaults, made many conclude that Fred was no mere ghost, but of course, demonic. It seemed personal and evil. Paranormal historians have debated what Fred really was. One theory by investigator Tom Cuniff suggested the ghost was the vengeful spirit of a medieval monk who had committed terrible crimes. Makes a great story, doesn't it? Can make a movie with that. And was executed nearby. Research on that will prove. Anyway, if true, that would make it a human ghost, but a particularly nasty one, behaving in outrageously malevolent ways. Others suspect that from the get-go it was an inhuman demon masquerading as a ghost. How's that? A demon pretending to be a ghost.
Do they have nothing to do in the afterlife but do this shit? They haven't progressed very much, have they? Aren't you supposed to progress in the
Hardly
afterlife?
enlightened.
And get your angel wings and everything and become angels? Aren't they all
Yeah.
Only
angelic?
if you've been good and followed baby Jesus' rules.
Only angelic.
Some researchers pointed to the sheer cruelty of the attacks, and Diane was traumatized. She levitated, was hung upside down from a roof beam in one instance. I don't remember some of these from our reports. One summary noted, some believe it's not a ghost, but a full-on demonic entity, especially because of how physical and cruel it was. And that's from the Font of All information Reddit. Colin Wilson leaned towards the hybrid explanation that the poltergeist drew on the family turmoil and location as energy, but also mused that the black monk apparition might have been kind of psychic recording of a separate spirit drawn in by the energy. He has a book called Poltergeist, by the way. He sort of described him as a schoolyard bully, initially playful but capable of real harm once they know they can get away with it. It's as if the haunting itself can learn and adapt, crossing the line from trickster to tormentor. By the end of the Pontefract siege, the family's experiences checked almost every box in the demonology list, yet it started off as a run-of-the-mill ghostly outbreak with a sense of humour too, if I remember correctly. It was doing some funny things, but then it started to do the nasty things. So they still say that they are getting activity there today from Fred and the ominous black figure. We didn't. All right, just trying to get there. So was it really a demon there who just eventually threw off the mask and or was it the entity that's mutated into the demonic thing? So then we go on to the thought forms, tulpas, synthetic spirits, and shaping the entity. So we've looked at the negative energy, stress, and invitation, inviting them in to intensify a haunting. A different strand of thought is that human minds might create or significantly shape these entities. Surprise. Hmm. Maybe some ghosts or demons are thought forms, product of a collective imagination or psychic projection that take on a life as their own. Now, we talk about this at historic locations that we go to. I'm not sure if they're listening.
Yes, we are.
I'm talking a lot. I know I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry, but I really wanted to give you guys something to think about. So the concept of thought form or tulpas come largely from the occult and spiritualist traditions. A thought form is essentially a mental image or entity generated by focusing thought and emotion. The term tulpa comes from Tibetan mysticism. I'm just trying to skip over some of this stuff. Phantoms created by magicians. Uh, and essentially, it came down to what was it? There was the egregore and there was the tulpa. The tulpa was created by, well, they say magician, but it's somebody who had the ability to create that thing. The egregore was created by a group. Now, we know one very famous case about a created energy, yeah?
Mm-hmm. The Philip experiment.
Yeah. And also, is the Mothman prophecy, which you talked about the other day, is this something that has been created by a whole heap of people who believed it was real? Because it actually started as a book, the Mothman prophecies, although there are some people who say that the figure occurred before that time as well. I'm going to try and skip down a little bit. If a family or investigator start believing a ghost is demonic, could their collective fear actually reshape it into a demon?
Mm.
And
That's a very, very good question. I still have yeah, keep going.
all right.
Okay, yeah.
So one of the famous experiments supporting the mind-made ghost was the Philip experiment, which was in 1972. They assembled a group of regular people to see if they could conjure a fictional ghost through sustained imagination. They invented entire backstory for an imaginary spirit called Philip and held regular seance. For months, nothing happened until they dimmed the lights and began acting as if Philip was real. That's an interesting uh, twist. To the team's amazement, they eventually started getting responses, knocks on the table, answering questions, breezes, the table levitating and moving. Thank you from Living Life in the Full Spectrum. Quote from there again. The spirit identified as Philip and the spirit identified as Philip and communicated. But interestingly, Philip never gave information that the group hadn't already created themselves. It was as if their collective mind was the puppet master. The physical phenomena was undeniable, and they had effectively created a poltergeist haunting in a lab setting, which is just crazy. But Philip was a product of their collective consciousness, a classic synthetic ghost. The experiment famously inspired a horror film called The Quiet Ones. Do we know this movie?
I've seen it. I think I've seen that one.
I don't remember that. But it then suggests that some hauntings may be egregores, which is the group thought forms, rather than spirits of the dead. Ah, so what happens then? Once the egregore or the tulpa has been created, does it then gain autonomy? Autonomy. Think of AI. This is, we're creating AI now. When does it start to step out of its bounds? It can outlive its creators and then turn on them. Much like the Slender Man, which was an internet creation, and you can listen to the True Hauntings podcast on that one as well. They started to get sightings of Slender Man, but he was never really a ghost. He was a creation, but is this an example of humans creating a thought form, which then manifests as the thing that they were talking about?
Like Jesus. Annabelle.
Could an ordinary ghost be molded by expectations? If everyone interacting with a spirit believes it to be demonic, perhaps it starts behaving in line with that role, either as an act or because it actually transforms or mutates.
So this is what Living in Life in Full Spectrum says. I do believe that us as investigators going into locations week in, week out with guides, reciting the same scripts, calling the same spirits can be a byproduct of this. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's fascinating.
Absolutely.
We've had Philip from Maitland Jail follow us from location to location, and we know it's him because of the way he speaks. Have we created that identity? And we keep feeding into it. And he's actually with us. He's not from the jail, he's with us. Could some of our demons actually be warped human spirits? See, originally they would think that demons are fallen angels. Oh, entirely separate creation. But paranormal investigators outside of strict religious doctrine have entertained more fluid possibilities. We've already seen that Lorraine Warren believed in a negative human spirit, because you can get a movie out of it. Oh, the outside voice again. John Zaffis reminded us that a violent ghost may not be a demon. Let's keep on going down. Demonologists and occultists go a step further. They speculate that if a human soul becomes corrupt enough, say it was evil in life and remained earthbound out of hatred or obsession, see, that's another belief system, it might eventually lose its humanity and essentially turn into a human, inhuman spirit. And that sort of breaks the whole definition of demons. Yeah, we've talked about the ALP. Catholic Church does not acknowledge the existence of human damned souls that can haunt. They will often call them revenants or just troubled spirits, and non-human demons. They don't believe in, but it generally doesn't suggest a human soul becomes a demon. They can masquerade as something they are not. In many exorcisms, what appears to be the spirit of a dead person may turn out to be trickery or vice versa. You'll be pleased now up to page 8. I know I've gone over time, but I need to get into all of this. Now, modern researchers have explored a concept called layered hauntings, where a case might involve both human spirits and non-human spirits interacting side by side. Would that possibly have what happened in Mayfield? They were two
Possibly.
humans, weren't they?
Yes.
That we knew of.
Mhm.
An investigator might find a house that has a genuine ghost, but a demonic presence has also moved in, perhaps attracted by occult activities or extreme negative events there. And we will often say that we'll get drop-ins. The Conjuring 2, all right, we're not going to go into that. But they talk about how the what was it? The ghost of an old man in the family has been manipulated like a puppet by the demon nun Valaka. Valaka? How do you say it?
Valak.
Valak. Valak. You're right. Okay. Yep. Who was an inhuman spirit, and they were hiding behind the traditional ghost. But that's not a real story. So it would be interesting, though, to think of a ghost and a demon working together. On the other hand, consider the possibility that all so-called demons are, in a sense, created by humans, whether as thought forms or corrupted ghosts or as manifestations of collective evil. This is more sort of esoteric sort of interpretation, but some occult philosophers suggest that centuries of violence and cruelty can generate non-human entities that were never individual people but are born of human evil. They might be called energy parasites or elementals. I would disagree with elementals.
Yes.
For me, elementals are land spirits of
Yeah, you got to be careful that you're not kind of confusing the old stuff, the really
Yeah.
old stuff,
'Cause-
and using those labels to try and name the new stuff that we're creating along the way.
this is also what is happening, is that the original terms like demon or daemon in early times was something you made a contract with to if you gave them something, they would help you with something. It wasn't necessarily demonic evil. It's Christianity that's taken that on, and many other religions as well. Right, nearly there. So imagine a murderer's ghost in a prison. It starts as a simple haunting, footsteps, apparitions. Over the years, as inmates and guards fear the ghost and perhaps perform dark rituals to either summon it or banish it, the ghost becomes more aggressive. It scratches, it speaks obscenities, it even imitates religious blasphemy, picked up from attempts of exorcism. At some point, new witnesses assume it must be a demon. The entity itself now responds viciously to religious provocation like a demon would. Has the ghost become a demon, or is it imitating what we as humans expect a demon to do because it's getting something from it? It's getting attention, it's getting energy, it's getting focus from all these people. It's loving it. It just, my mind is hurting. It's oozing out my ears. Oh. Yeah, so that was the point of all of this is, are these ghosts, because we've got ghost hunters going into locations and calling out the demons, are they going, oh, well, they're not going to talk to me, so I'll talk, and then they gain the energy from it? Are we creating it? Are they changing from one form to another because of this? Are hauntings static? Do they not change? Do we expect the same thing every time? Or do they grow? What's your thoughts?
Well, what are your thoughts, people? You just listen to all of that. Pop them in. Pop them down.
I think
what
they
you
switched
think.
off ages ago.
No,
I
no.
think there's a lot. There's a lot there. And like I've tried to jump over a bit of it as well because there was so much of it. I can put the whole article up. It is something I have created with some help from the internet. So I will pop it up there and you let me know what you think.
I think that we have to be careful as paranormal investigators on how we step into these environments and what we actually do with respect to the alleged spirits that come through to us, and not be so quick to label them or name them or whatever it is, because we really don't know what we are dealing with. And, and like you said right at the very beginning, the theme of all paranormal investigations on YouTube now are demons. It's demons. It's got to have demon in the title or it's not going to get clicks. So what are we creating on the other side?
This is the problem. What are we creating?
What are we doing? We always talk about having respect for those that have passed over. And a lot of paranormal investigators will say we have to have a lot of respect for the people who have passed over, but they're not doing it. The moment they can find anything at all that they can label as demonic, they will go ahead and do it. It's like there is no space out there at all that doesn't have some sort of negative energy in it, for goodness sake. So it's one of those baffling things where we don't know when our influence stops and where whatever we have created on the other side takes form and shape of its own volition. Where does that finish? Do we have to add the story in so that creature is created? Or does it need a little bit of a push to go, well, like you said, you're listening to me now, you're hearing me, I've got to get more and more angrier so that you can hear me even better than before. Like, we have to be super careful, and people are not being super careful. And people are seeing this stuff on YouTube and going, this is so real. Yes, in a way it is real, but you're freaking creating the reality. You are shaping and creating your reality. If you want a reality full of fucking demons, you're getting it. Yeah. You are making it happen. it's not going to end well. Let's just say that.
It's all a case, especially when we think, again, I keep bringing this up. Annabelle's just tired. It's try that again. It's down to interpretation and, you know, being willing to ignore what other people like what we know. And we've had this conversation about the American sites that we've been to. We are so well informed by some of these, especially huge sites, that they may have manifested some kind of energy there because of all
The
the
amount of people
intention
that are
behind
going
it.
in.
But as investigators or as amateur investigators or as people of interest, I think you can't go in going, well, I know that Dolly Jones haunts the third cubicle there. I'm going to talk to Dolly Jones. I know that she's there. A more interesting and possibly mind-opening thing is to get your own experience of what is there. If someone comes through on something on a Ouija board or something and goes, "Hey, I'm Dolly Jones. I died in the third cubicle." Great, then you've had that same experience. But don't be afraid to go, "There's jack shit happening here."
Dolly Jones hasn't come to talk to
In
us.
some of the most haunted, and I've been on the journey from fan to,
Yeah.
working with these guys, working in these locations. You can't, you have to be able to separate what you've been told as to what you're experiencing, because the human brain loves patterns, it loves recognition, it loves knowing, oh, that matches what I've been told.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even at Maitland Jail, when, again, going back to Maitland Jail and tying it all back,
Tied it all
I
in
know.
so beautifully
going
tonight.
back to Maitland Jail or something like Annabelle, where we've been told by people that this is this spirit. For when we ran the B-Wing experiment, we wouldn't give details.
No, never.
Yeah?
Come in.
We wouldn't give details on it. We let people have their own authentic experience and then give them the information to see if it
at the
matches
end.
up.
And we'd have it written down in our phones
And we're doing
dated.
we're doing the same thing at Tocal.
Yes.
I think that's the way you've got to come at it, because in the short time I've been doing it, I haven't seen anything demonic. Nothing has scared me. I've had things shock me and surprise me,
Yeah.
but nothing has terrified me running off into the night screaming like a stuck pig, because you have to be rational about it, because are you always in your real life going to believe everything that everyone says about everything? Or are you going to go, okay, well, that's not my experience, but everyone else is saying so it must be true.
And they've got such a big, strong belief in this demonic thing that it's going to affect their everyday life as well. They're going to be thinking there's demons following them, and
Yeah.
and they're going to
Sometimes
get
you
what
shit
they're
out of
looking
luck,
for.
right? Aren't
Sorry, Renata, you were going to say something. I saw you draw breath.
you?
Gone?
No. Yeah. Look, I just wonder, and I think it was Michelle or Danielle who said, weren't there demons before Christianity?
Yeah, that was
well,
me.
yes, there were. There were.
Yep.
In as old as writings are, there were always negative things that were there to attack us. But that's a human thing. That is us as humans saying there is something to fear out there.
And blaming something else for the problems rather than taking responsibility.
Look at history and look at what was considered, demonic possession, and is now mental illness.
Yeah, unclean spirits in the Old Testament. The Old Testament was like vile. If you wanted a God like that, he was a horrible person. He was horrible. God was horrible.
We would have been struck down many times by now.
The conversation is, generally, this whole thing, it should open you up to investigating in a different way that is more authentic to you. Like you always joke, we must be really bad investigators because we don't experience stuff, but we don't go looking for it either.
Exactly,
No,
and we don't go in with fear either.
And we don't, we always like it when
Anticipation.
something creepy happens.
Yeah.
Like Tears and Fears KPIs, love that.
Mm.
Love it when it happens. But it's not something you're going to force either because it's not authentic. You might as well just make up a whole story
Yep.
about a ghost, and then you are forming something.
Yeah.
You are giving something energy that does not exist. Whereas the conversation is if we are communicating with something that is not of this earth and is formerly human,
Mm.
or of the evils of humanity.
There's your
What
evil
it
humans.
what it genuinely has to say should be more interesting than creating a story to make it seem scary.
Yeah.
That's just me.
And look, I know
And
at the
whatever.
moment it is all about entertainment on YouTube, and that's the only thing that gets clicks on YouTube and so on. And you've just got to look at the thousands and thousands of YouTubers
Thank you,
out there
Sarah.
that are paranormal investigators that are putting stuff up. It's a hard market to try and crack, and unless you have something super, super awesome that you are talking about or super viral that's going on, then you can't even elbow your way in. But okay, if we can understand that part of that is the entertainment scene, then we're being adult about it. But when we're actually going into places where there is a history that has to be respected, we shouldn't be calling out the demon name because that makes us better investigators, or we're doing cheap thrills for people. Go and set up a haunted house and get your cheap thrills that way. Don't go into a historic home or a place,
Someone's
or
private
or
road.
a site where they are giving you the joy and happiness of being able to go and do that sort of stuff, and then claiming that there are negative energies. I chuck a spack attack if someone says,
Spack attack.
if someone says there is negative energy at Miss Porter's house. That was a home that was inhabited by women who had a really, really hard time of living, and they did the best that they could. And people will come in and go, oh, there's something negative in here. And I go, no, there's not.
No, friggin' not.
There is not.
Unless you get someone saying, I am negative, then don't assume. Because you know what happens when you assume.
So,
Makes an ass out of you and me.
we still, as paranormal investigators and people who are given the opportunity to go into these places, have a semblance of a responsibility, not only to our guests, but also to the spirits that are there. And we have been to other jails where we have spoken to spirits, allegedly, whatever you believe, how that communication comes through. And they are so misunderstood and they are so wounded, and people continue to wound them even more. Wouldn't you be angry? Wouldn't you be angry if no one gave you a moment of respect to kind of hear the real story?
And do they then mutate from an ordinary ghost to an angry ghost and then demonic?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that brings us right to the very end in a round full circle. Have you enjoyed this type of content for the Paranormal Hot Seat? Would you like to hear some more theories? Have more discussions on what the beliefs are in the paranormal community? Let us know.
Would you like Annabelle to have her own TV show?
I will pop that information up onto Facebook pages, and also I'll pop it in underneath the description on YouTube as well. And have your say.
Yeah.
Would you like me to work on Play School, Annabelle?
And do us a favor and share this around if it's if it's communication that you think is vital and would do some good.
Just want people to think.
Yeah, think for yourself.
I know that I've been stale for a while, and this really fueled me back up to think about things again. So yeah, got my blood pumping.
All right. Okay.
And I look cute in my plaits.
Annabelle's sitting like a lady.
She is.
And
all right, we have kept you for almost an hour and a half. Thank you so very, very much for being with us. Thank you for all of your comments on
Check
the
out Living
site.
Life in the Full Spectrum. You'll find
Absolutely.
them on Facebook, and I think we've got a blog site as well. That's Sarah Chimachera. I have quoted some of her material in this little dissertation for tonight. Thank you, guys. Been an awesome night. Thank you for the super stickers and the shares. And
If you're not busy, check
And
out
plants.
Uncensored Radio tomorrow. Bye.
yeah, Uncensored Radio. All right, we're going to get out of here. I need this back. We'll see you on the dark side.
Stay spooky
Be frightfully good.
and don't
Blow it
be
out your ass.
a dickhead.
Annabelle says, blow it out your ass.
Bye, everyone.